Thank you, Deep Clough, and thank you, Minister, for your statement today. I think I speak for all of us here when I say that providing the best possible service for children in care is paramount. And while we have a different outlook on how this can be achieved, I hope that you nonetheless agree that robust scrutiny is always needed, not for any political gain, but in the interests of those children in care. Previously, the Welsh Conservatives have argued that the private model is better suited for delivery of children's care services, and I won't labour on this point any further. It's ultimately your prerogative as government to set out how you believe these services can be improved. However, I do nonetheless have a few questions on how eliminating profit provisions is going to work and how you believe it will improve on the current situation. At present, all 22 local authorities in Wales are members of the Children's Commissioning Consortium Cymru, which, as you will be aware, supports them to comply with their duties of sufficiency, affordability and sustainability. This is by analysing the need to identify gaps in the market and lead developments on a national, regional and local level to respond to unmet needs. However, even when future needs are anticipated, local authorities have said that they struggle to convert this understanding to current care providers who, through the profit model, are themselves incentivised to understand as best as they can what local authorities will need in the future. How is the non-for-profit model you propose going to help improve this? How will you ensure that non-profit care homes are incentivised to look towards future demands? I ask this because I believe that the non-for-profit model is not incentivised enough to understand future needs. And since local authorities will only be paying for the services offered, non-for-profit providers won't, unlike for-profit providers, have the additional income to build capacity, even if they know what capacity they need. Another major issue that we face in Wales across many sectors is that we do not have enough trained people for specialist roles. It takes years to train people, and in general, people access courses based upon future job prospects. The for-profit model has capacity within it to fund upfront for personnel to provide a future service, meaning that it can start planning for jobs and training people for the jobs that it will need in future. The non-for-profit provider won't be able to do this, meaning that there could be a greater shortage of specialist workers in child services in the future, because people will be accessing courses and training ahead of demand. Therefore, Minister, how are you going to encourage non-for-profit providers to continually invest in people to access specialist training for future child services if they don't have the financial capacity to do so? As you are aware, one of the current and major issues facing the sector is that around 31% of looked after children in Wales are placed outside their local authority area, including 5% who are placed outside of Wales and away from family networks. And this has a negative impact on maintaining fragile family relationships. The reason behind this, it would seem, is that it's extremely difficult to find placements for older children and for children with more complex care needs. You have mentioned that 7 new residential homes for children with complex needs have already opened, with a further 14 homes in development that are expected to complete by the end of March and another 8 homes to complete next year. Are these homes strategically placed so that looked after children with complex needs are not placed outside of the local authority? Will some children still be placed outside of Wales? I ask this because I'm wondering if you considered enforcing a minimum requirement for distance away from family. It has also been almost 2.5 years since the publication of the Child Practice Review into the death of Logan Mwangi, which made it crystal clear that change is absolutely necessary and that there needs to be an improvement in safeguarding practice. Although there has been some improvement in regional safeguarding boards joint working, those working on the ground still feel that there isn't improved practice. They believe that rather than an improved learning from mistakes approach, it is systematic change which is needed in a way that vulnerable children are identified and cared for, which ensures that vulnerable children have a full offer of support from universal through to edge of care. What actions are you taking to address this, in particular, reviewing health, social care, education, and police recording, information gathering, and the ability to share information? At present, there's still far too many information systems which inhibit decision-making. And this brings me to my last point, Deep Clough. Minister, a long-term issue in Wales is that we have seen varying degrees of cooperation between local authorities. Despite some regional collaboration being widely seen as beneficial, local authorities are still struggling to collaborate successfully due to risk aversion, budgetary constraints, differences in governance, and the difficulties aligning priorities and sharing costs. For children's services, this means that departments within the 22 local authorities are not working well together. Welsh Government have, as far as I can see, made no clear progress in encouraging them to do so. So with this in mind, Minister, what plans do you have to set a minimum level of activity at local authority children's services that must be carried out collectively? Thank you.